What's up, guys? Josh Schneider,
Justin Russell.
Russell Marine Products. We're out here today to do a much anticipated comparison.
Yes.
We've got the LVS34 going against the LVS32. Finally getting it on the water, finally getting to check it out, see what all this hype is about.
Absolutely. So again, a very windy day.
Yep.
It wasn't supposed to be. Tomorrow's supposed to blow like 45, so definitely not doing that tomorrow, doing it today. We're gonna go over 3 different depth ranges, but instead of doing all 3 modes and all 3 different depth ranges, we're actually gonna be a little bit simpler with this. So we're starting off with depth number 1 going in our perspective mode mount, and it's our world famous, I guess I always thought it was fence row, foundation fence row. We're gonna follow that thing, do the comparison in perspective mode. Then we're gonna go to our mid-depth range where we always think the LiveScope kind of shines, that 15 to 25 foot. And then we're gonna finish up deeper than 25 and go that 25 to 50 foot range.
What I'm really interested to look at here is when we're checking out these different depths, we know where the 32 always stood out and was excellent in, again, factory settings, always factory settings here.
And this thing here was the standard for live imaging or forward-facing sonar for 4 or 5 years. I mean, it really set the pace for what everybody else had to attain to be, right?
Absolutely.
So really curious to see what LiveScope 2.0, the LVS34, really does in comparison to how bad is it going to truly beat it.
I want to see if they can stretch it.
Yeah.
That's what we want to see. That's what we're going to see.
Yeah.
Let's check it out.
Yeah. So today we're using an 8612. We're using that for screen recording session here. So we've got it hooked up on our mount here, as you guys have seen in the past for like some ice fishing stuff. So independently battery powered. We are mounting these on the trolling motor, so it's easy to kind of fight this wind and keep everything dialed in when using and operating the trolling motor. The main feature we want to showcase here is for what we know our customers use when we get in the mid-depth range and the deep water is forward mode. So again, some of the videos in the past you've seen us do perspective, shallow water deep, forward shallow water deep, and then down shallow water deep. This time we're doing 1 in perspective mode in shallow water, and then we're going mid and deep on forward mode only.
Yep. Stick around, let's see what happens.
Okay, coming up on, there's the 90.
There's our corner.
There's our brush pile on the corner, well, near the corner.
Nothing new, pretty used to what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
It has rained a lot in the last week, so water condition, visibility.
Fighting the wind and waves.
Pretty par for the course of what we're used to seeing out of the 32. Great clarity on the rocks down there. You can absolutely see the foundation wall. You can absolutely see the rock piles.
There's the gap.
You can see the gap. You can see fish moving around. The rays are there. They're
you can see the stitching. Same as it's been.
Yep. But as we usually see in LiveScope, it's perspective mode's good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hammers out at this depth.
Next up, we're gonna do some medium depth stuff here and go forward mode here and see what we got.
Let's go check it out.
So here's the second most famous brush pile. There's an anchor break.
Yeah.
There's the old brush pile.
There it is.
So you can definitely tell it's something there. It's not that distinguished. I mean, we're not looking at trees, but again, it's a big old brush pile.
Right, big brush pile hanging out. Good definition.
Yeah, for sure. Again, anchor, you know, big cement anchor right there.
The one thing, again, going back to some of the things that the hype media is talking about with coming out from Garmin, all the information is this target separation.
Yeah.
I want to know what's hanging out on that right now because
that's a decent picture. You can see some individual tree branches there and stuff.
I'm anxious to see if we see something hanging out on it that we're not seeing here.
Yeah.
With that increased target separation. I'm curious about that. But it looks good. It looks solid.
All right, so we can see the buoy and the buoy line right there. We're coming up on the spillway. There's some intake grates there.
There
we go.
Yeah, obviously the clarity, we're getting a little better here in the deep water than we were in the shallow water.
Look at all that shad there.
That's looking fantastic.
Yeah, there's the grates. There's what we were looking for.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, the water clarity over here is a lot better. You can see, visibility much better. But yeah, that's what we're used to seeing.
The old LVS32.
Yeah, rockstar.
Still doing its thing, man.
All right.
Doing its thing. Okay, rolling up.
It's still improved.
Yeah.
We're seeing more stitching for sure. It really looks like the gains turned up higher in this perspective mode. Haha, perspective, get it?
There's the gap, so we must have just cruised over the corner.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, more stitching here. Oh, wow. More stitching here than what we were seeing in forward mode.
It's a good sized
For
post
sure,
right
it is,
there.
yeah.
Never seen that before.
I didn't see that before, and then if we actually turn around and go back.
Yeah, let's do that.
I saw what I thought was a laydown on the fence.
Yeah,
right
on the
before 90.
opposite side, yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah. Laying parallel to the fence.
I don't recall seeing that before, at least not clearly.
No. Okay, here we go. So we'll hit the outside and then we'll make the bend again. So there's the fence.
Yep. There's our stone row.
And you can see it's a much more defined row now than it ever really was before.
Yeah.
There's the corner.
I mean, not as stark
No,
as it was in
absolutely
forward
not.
for sure. And I think the big thing is you're still seeing quite a bit of stitching here.
Yeah, for sure.
Where forward, thus far, we've, fish are very clear.
Oh yeah.
It's solid. I couldn't honestly say, again, factory settings at this depth range and perspective, that it's like markedly better than the 32.
No.
You can tell the difference.
Yeah, this doesn't have us as excited as it was in forward mode, right?
No, right.
There's
sure.
a little bit of a difference, yes.
There's an
Good
improvement.
pop
Yeah,
of
and,
fish.
yeah. And we are seeing some laydowns and things that I don't recall seeing before.
Yeah.
For sure. But
Yeah.
so that target separation comes back into play.
Yeah.
But
it's just
again,
not as like, oh wow.
Oh, wow, yeah, the stitching is the thing that's getting me, Okay, so same brush pile we were scanning just a couple of minutes ago with the 32, guys.
In auto settings, this adjusts so much faster and so much better to maximize the actual size of the object in your frame. Where before we didn't see that. Yeah, you're seeing a lot better target separation of tree branches laying across and coming out. There's that anchor we were talking about from before.
Earlier you could clearly see a brush pile for sure, but this we're absolutely, number one, note the complete lack of stitching.
Yeah.
I see no stitching. And on the brush pile itself, it's picking up individual sticks.
Yeah, individual tree parks for
Yeah.
sure. Focus on that again. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So
There's some cabling coming out on the lower left-hand side. Those are actually cables. See how bright they are
same
compared to the
angle.
tree branches?
We did not see that before with the 32.
Did not, no. And again, this is our mid-depth. This is where we always thought LVS32 or LiveScope in general shined, is at 15 to 25 foot range.
Well, and again, so the dimension.
Still seeing the cabling.
And the dimension you see out of this. So in the other one, it looked like a hump of a brush pile. And as we're looking at this, you can see, I'm seeing angles of it. I'm seeing where it's not just this round wad or round pile that looks like it's just a hill of brush. You can actually see some of the shape and some of the corners.
Yeah,
and some of those places where things are going to be tucked back in, as opposed to just seeing it as a whole.
Stitching is absolutely better. Target separation is absolutely better in this 15 to 25 foot range for sure. Which is where, again, we think 90% of the people are using that LiveScope is in this depth range right here.
And again, you guys, this is auto settings. We're very excited to get out on the water and play with this guy. Something we've talked to other LiveScope people about, and some of the guys that are just really, really good with it. Call out Matt Mott in Australia, Bastabera. That guy is a magician with an LVS32 and can get really clear pictures. But what I'm seeing on this is even beyond what someone can get out of a 32.
Yeah.
When they're
This is better than a really good dialed in
Yeah.
32, and we're in auto settings here. So
Yes.
dialing this in should be much more
I'm
improved
excited
image.
to do that.
Yeah. We're 100, 110, 120 feet out on this thing, and you can,
Yeah.
okay, let's go back.
Go back just a little bit. There she is, 120 feet out.
Yeah, wow.
120 feet out, 55, 60 feet down.
That's impressive.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
Wow.
Look at the brake. So, okay, something to point out on this view here.
You can see
We're
the
getting some
brake
waves.
before it gets to the intake grate.
Exactly. So before, you could see the intake grate very, very clearly.
Look at those fish.
With the 32, absolutely. With the 34.
Look at that school of fish right there.
Wow.
Right in front of the intake grate.
Yeah.
But that right there is what we haven't ever seen before.
No, you can see the actual steps. It's that dimension. Like I was talking about on that brush pile, you can see the hard breaks. You can see the individual features of the structure.
We're gonna fight the wind here. Hold on a second. Let us get back over there. Okay, so there's that. I'm gonna scan to the left here. Ooh,
oh, wow.
Jesus.
So, wow.
Look at those fish.
Lots of fish hanging out. Unbelievable definition. So
wow.
When we're looking at the side-by-side here, the
That's
shelves,
what we've not seen before.
No, we've not seen it. No. Not like that.
Okay.
Again, so, okay, I will
There's our vertical buoy anchors right there.
I do see a touch of the stitching here that we didn't see in the mid-depth right here across the grates.
Yeah.
You can see a touch of stitching, but man, it is dramatically reduced.
Wow. And these are other buoy lines right here in front, but fish
yeah,
right
the
there.
separation across that, in that depth, at that distance, to still be getting separation.
Sorry,
like
trying to fight the wind, guys. Wow. I mean,
damn.
Wow. All right, guys, so that wraps up our time on the water here. We're actually gonna take it back to the studio here and do a side-by-side and kind of analyze it actually back in the studio when we've got both images side-by-side.
Do some commentary and check it out.
So what'd you think?
It was really solid, guys. I mean, it's the things you wonder. It's like, okay, you talk about price point differences. You talk about all those things. You talk about the same black box and like how much better could it be? All things we're hearing on the phone, all things we're getting through email. And man, they stepped it up. The clarity is fantastic. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely a difference in clarity, definitely a difference in target separation, and definitely a difference in stitching for sure.
Yeah.
I really feel like this is Garmin's answer to like install it on your boat and don't touch anything and you've got amazing images. Now, we know, we've seen them, amazing images with LVS32.
Absolutely.
When you're dialing them in. It's very, very good with auto settings as well too. I don't want to take that away from it. But I feel like this is the, like, install it on your boat, really don't have to adjust a whole lot. We're not seeing the ghost tree.
Nope.
We're not seeing the massive stitching lines coming across here. So again, pretty impressed with that.
Yeah.
I mean, leave it up to you guys. Is it worth the extra $300-400 for you guys? Well, I mean, you ultimately determine that. But yeah, I mean, definitely a notable difference between them for sure.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, so we're off the water, back in the studio here. We're actually going to go over and we're going to watch our side-by-side comparison here. There are a couple things that we saw out there that should come through on our first look.
Yep.
And now we're going to do the side-by-side of the LVS32 footage versus the LVS34 and kind of compare side-by-side.
I think this is cool. You know, when we're doing that, we're doing one and then the other. We're not running them at the exact same time. We don't want any interference going on. Yeah. So this is cool for us to really see them side-by-side as you guys are viewing it as well. So being able to pick up some of these differences, we're looking at the beginning of the still shot here, and we're seeing something that maybe we didn't see on the water that was a little different than what we saw in the moment. That's what is cool about doing it this way. So.
I will say to start this off, we're doing perspective mode first.
Yes.
And on the water, how we did the filming was a little bit backwards. So as you're seeing it, you're seeing perspective first. That's not actually how we filmed this. So we did film perspective first on the LVS32, and we actually ended with perspective on the LVS34. And in person, we were kind of disappointed with what we saw on the 34, honestly.
You guys heard it a few seconds ago, I'm sure, in our voices.
Yeah, and what I want to say about that is I think for us, when we started filming with the forward modes on the LVS34, we didn't see a lot of stitching or arrays like we had seen on the 32s. Yeah. But in perspective modes, those came back, and that was kind of an immediate letdown, I think, for both of us. When we saw that, we're like, okay,
what happened?
here,
to be clear, this all did take place on the same day.
Yeah.
Like we filmed everything.
Yeah, we're literally
within minutes of one another.
Say we're an hour apart here.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, roughly an hour apart. Look at the difference of the water temperature just in that hour apart. That's insane. It was a warm day. That's crazy.
It was. Yeah. So anyway, with no further ado, let's rock and roll. Okay. So we're on the old block foundation.
Yes. Like fence line.
Yeah. What I see immediately are the stitching rather that we talked about just a second ago.
Yeah, it's definitely there.
But it is much less than the 32. I mean,
Yeah.
20-30% less maybe. Like, it's still there, but it's not as present. Like, I'm not seeing the super hard shadows in between. What do you think?
The shadows are definitely not as hard, no. The stitching is still there.
Yeah.
I will say, to me, the 34 just standard looks like it's got the gain turned up. But again, these are all auto settings. We are seeing more target separation. We are seeing more detail on the 34 versus the 32.
Yeah,
is it this like rock star, like way different? No. Like I said, I think we could probably achieve some of the same stuff on the 32 if we just kick the gain up a little bit. Next, we're going to move into forward. We're actually going into that middle depth range of that 15 to 25 feet. So we're looking at a big brush pile that's outside the marina on El Dorado Lake. Everybody knows where it is. And we're noticing a lot right here. There is a pretty big difference on this.
Yeah.
So cables are definitely more distinguished on the 34.
Yeah.
We'll have our editor actually circle some of this and point to the cables and stuff that's on this brush pile.
It's the word that I see, and it's something that we talked about and something that Alex, the lovely gentleman behind the camera, talked about. It's crisp. And I think that's the best word to describe it here. The line breaks, the separation, the target separation in between the individual pieces in that brush pile. It's absolutely cleaner.
It's more defined.
For sure. The angles look harder. It doesn't look like a big mound of something. You can start to see the individual pieces of brush that make up that pile. Now, we know when we see like individual trees on the 32, for sure clear definition there, but on something like this,
These are literally like 20 brush piles just dumped in an area. Okay, there's a couple anchors in here. A couple cables are actually over it. So we can see, like, even on the 32, you can see a tree branch, but you can see a lot more of the definition of the tree branch on the 34. And these were filmed from the same angles, by the way, so it's not necessarily the boat being in a different position. I mean, they were filmed from the exact same angle.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the deeper water off our old favorite spillway.
This is actually my favorite one, honestly.
I think I should pause it for a sec.
Yeah.
Let me go right where they line up.
It's coming up here, I believe. Right there. About as close as you're going to get.
Yeah. So that is pretty intense. The definition you're getting, if you look at the grid lines on the screen, we're from 70 to 90 feet out.
Which is about the same
range.
Here.
Yeah. In roughly the same water. You're going to see the water vary a lot. We're riding pretty big rollers while we're doing this. So you'll see in some variance there. But that definition at distance and depth on the 34 is substantially better.
You can definitely tell, again, each one's still good within their own right. Like, I'm not going to necessarily say, like, you shouldn't buy the 32 or you absolutely should buy the 34. You're going to see really good imaging on both, but it is more clear on the 34. You can actually see a tree hanging off the buoy lines that are in front of the spillway on the 34, but you're still seeing good fish and bait fish in front of the grid on the 32. One thing I do want to notice here, or point out, I should say, I didn't notice this until now, but if you look at the auto gain feature here on the 32, it's actually adjusting between 69 to 70%, and the auto on the LVS34 is adjusting between 72 and 73%. So the gain is up a little bit more, not much, not enough to really make a huge difference in my opinion. But I always thought, and actually I think you said right out of the get-go, when we saw some of the first footage, gosh, a month ago, a while back ago, it did look like, to us, it was a LVS34 looked like a very good dialed in LVS32, and it looked like the gain, it just looked like it was running hotter.
More crisp.
But what we are noticing, especially in forward mode, the stitching is way less pronounced on the 34.
Gone. I mean,
there's one area in the middle band there that always kind of comes across on both the 32 and the 34. But and again, guys, latest software settings for all this stuff, we don't see the ghost tree on the 32 or the 34.
Nope.
That's part of the core for the new update. But that stitching and blind spot is still somewhat pronounced
Blind
on
spots.
the 32.
Yeah, the blind spots is a big deal. I mean, that being corrected, however you want to say it, with the 34, whether it be the crystal layout, whether it
The
be
improved stitching.
the length,
Yeah.
how they were able to accomplish that, it definitely was accomplished. I think it's a successful product for sure. You know, now again, to like what you said, the difference if someone's going to say, do I have to have the 34? Or am I good with my 32? Or if I'm new to live imaging, is it worth saving that? You know, when you do the apples to apples, it was from another video we did, $300. It's about a $300 difference when you really break it down. That's something you guys are going to have to decide.
You spend the extra $300 on a bigger screen, or
right.
You know,
It's how do you do that? I mean, I would say it's very good. Definitely did a good job on it, Garmin, for sure. Is it, you know, whiz bang, holy smokes, that blows the old one out of the water? I think it's a lot better.
Yeah, it's for definitely sure better. I personally, I'm not going to say like I'm going to kick my 32 off this and absolutely have to have a 34. I mean,
in the same hand, we're gonna, right? I mean, that's the thing, right? And that's what I think where a lot of people will land. It's like, do I have to upgrade to it? No, the 32 is very serviceable. I think I said something on the water about being spoiled, right?
Yeah.
Like we're all pretty spoiled. You know, you can see good fish. It's like, wow, the separation's a little more clear. It's like, oh, I can pick up a pectoral fin now, even though I could pick up the fish itself earlier. Like, how spoiled are we getting? But, God, it's nice to have.
Well, and I will say this. I feel like the LVS34 is Garmin's version of install it on your boat, run auto settings, don't have to adjust anything to get a really, really good image. They've hit the nail on the head and realized their consumer base maybe potentially doesn't want to mess with settings on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Or you can mess with the settings and dial it in even better. You know, we haven't done a dialed in comparison yet. One thing that I will say that a lot of pros were asking us questions about it is, how good is the range with lure stuff? Now, we haven't done that yet. It was extremely windy when we did this, but I would like to go out and do another comparison. We know LVS32 is amazing from literally from the boat until about 50, 60 feet out. I want to see, and I assume we will be able to see further out on a lure because of the definition that we're getting, the less stitching that we're seeing, and hopefully no dead spots like we used to have on the LVS32. So I assume it will be better. I assume we'll be able to see that further out. So we hope to do another video and showcasing that to see what actually transpires with further out, because that's a big deal to a lot of people, especially early on springtime. You know, jerk baits, A-rigs, they really want to see that 90, 100 feet out. That matters huge.
I cannot wait to get out and play with it and start dialing in and seeing what it's capable of. You know, when you look at stock settings, to us, you see a stock settings on the 34 and how they are extremely comparable in our minds to someone that's really good on a 32. You can take a 34 and basically get that function. Someone that has literally spent tens, dozens of hours learning how to dial in a 32 to be able to turn it on and get that. What's going to happen when those guys get to play with the 34? What can we really get out of it? I'm excited to see that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you guys let us know. You think it justifies the difference in pricing? Would you rather spend that extra money on maybe a bigger screen to update that? So let us know. We were really excited to get out on the water and do this. Definitely see a noticeable difference, but you guys are the ultimate ones. Let us know what you think.
Look forward to hearing from you. We'll see you next time.